I will just go ahead and get started, since I know some of you have to
Yeah, we got to get off. A couple of us got to
leave
get
at
off.
7 o'clock.
Charlie and I, and I think
Right.
Brent, and we're going to do something else at
Right.
7.
So it's 6:07 almost. I'll call the meeting to order. There's no need to take roll call for this meeting. And what I'll do is I'll just kick off the meeting and turn it over to the mayor and then the chair of the Golf Course Commission, Pete. Both of you we can't see. Would have been better. But anyway, so I mean, all of you know what Timberland looks like today, right? I mean, we want to take this time to discuss, what it ought to be in the future. Call this a visioning session. Keep it at high level. Put all the ideas, all options on the table, and discuss advantages and disadvantages of all these options. I'm pretty sure we won't be able to arrive at a decision point today, but that's okay. We should take the time to, do our due diligence with each of these options, and anything else that might come up during the meeting, be open to those ideas as well, and to do what works best for the town. I think we all have that in mind, and we are here to try and figure out what might work for the town in the long run. So, couple of housekeeping items, if I may ask you. I don't know, Peter left.
No, I'm here.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm on video now. It worked. I got in.
Oh, that's beautiful. With your radio station, that's great.
I'm in my studio, so.
Couple of housekeeping matters, since we have quite a few people on the line. If I may ask you, all of you, to mute your devices, except for the ones who are speaking. So even on the phone, if you can mute it, that'll help us with the feedback and acoustic quality. And then if you have a question, I suggest, since we have a lot of people, if somebody's speaking, wait till you get to the end. But there's also capability, if you're on video, if you see on the bar on the top, there's a hand icon like this. If you click on that, we'll be able to see you and pause and take your question. But if that doesn't work, just wave your hands or do something or get your attention. And I'm trying not to have 6 people speak at the same time. It's going to be a little problematic. And again, since quite a few of you have said that you have other commitments at 7 o'clock, we want to try and wrap it up by 7 o'clock if possible. And that's okay. Like I said, we'll reschedule meetings and make sure it's productive. So at this point, Mayor, I'll turn it over to you for your opening remarks and what you would like to get out of this meeting.
Yes, thank you, Arosh. Thank you, everybody, for taking some time out. I know it's difficult. Every night, probably we all have things to do. So, yeah, this is the start of it. We talked about this end of last year a little bit, just to, we all need to get on the same page. We talked about a separate commission, and I think we all determined it didn't make sense, because really between the Golf Commission and the council, that's where the decisions will be made. So I don't think we need another group in the middle. That would just probably take more time, and all have to come back to us anyway. So as Arosh said, it's really just the beginning of the discussion. I know we have to, it's really, I think the beginning is a philosophical discussion we have to have about, where we perhaps see the golf course going, leaving it the same with, I'm sure, some fixes, changing it, to different formats, contracting things out, whatever. There's some different options we all know we can do. So we need to, I think, arrive at that. That's probably the most important conclusion we all need to arrive at. Not tonight. We can start the discussion tonight, and have a few more of these along the way in the next weeks and a few months. And maybe, I hope we can get some type of consensus, between us, the council and the Golf Commission, as to what we need to do to move forward successfully and keep Timberland the asset is to the town. It is a great asset, and we need to keep it going well into the future. But I think we all realize we need a plan. I don't think there's ever been a plan, from what I could see, at least for the short time I've been there, and going back well before then. I think we need some type of plan going forward with the way the world is today, and the economy, and golf, and everything, funding, all that stuff. Right? We have to have go down the road here 10 or 20 years so we know where we're headed. So that's really what we need to look at. And, want to hear everybody's points of view. Everybody's points of view are important to hear from all of us on the council and the golf commission, and then we'll start from there and see where we go. So that's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. At this point, I'll turn it over to our distinguished chair of the Golf Commission, Mr. DeFazio. Peter?
Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. I don't know if my video is working or not, but anyway. Good evening, everyone. I would like to start by thanking Arosa for coordinating this meeting, and to you, Mr. Mayor, and members of the council, for your participation. Timberland Park opened in 1970 as a recreational facility for Berlin residents to enjoy. There is no confusion as to how the Golf Commission feels with regard to how we would like to see Timberland handled. The unanimous opinion by the Commission is that it was built as an amenity to the town and it should be treated as such even to this day. Berlin possesses a wonderful array of assets in the form of parks, playing fields, open space, etc., for our taxpaying residents to enjoy. I can speak for myself in that I have never had a child in the school system, yet I fully support our wonderful education system that we've built in Berlin. As you are all aware, we have a large senior tax-paying population in our town. They also support our schools and the like with their tax dollars. Timberland is enjoyed by many senior residents. As a matter of fact, they make up the majority of play on Monday through Friday mornings. Some time ago, we were asked by the town council to come up with a list of options for Timberland in order to make it self-sustaining or even profitable. We have provided the town council with various options for your consideration. Ultimately, it will be your decision as to the future of Timberland. In order for us as a group to focus on a direction, we all need to be open and honest with one another here. There is absolutely no confusion as to the Golf Commission's opinion regarding Timberland. We do not, however, have a good handle as to how each of our council members view Timberland. I would ask our mayor and each council member to express your thoughts here tonight, your vision as to where you see Timberland fitting into the picture and how you think it should be handled. We ask for complete transparency, for that is the only way we can move forward and come up with a feasible plan for our fabulous asset called Timberland Park. That's it. Thank you.
Right. Thanks, Peter. For some reason, you were muffled. I don't know if others got the same type of connection. It was just muffled and breaking up. We heard the gist of what you had to say. So rather than going back into the, Peter's request was for the council members who are on the call to express in their words what they like to get out of this and what they like the Timberland Golf Course to be like in the future. If you have a vision to articulate, please do that. Mr. Mayor, do you want to say anything again, or should I go on the list?
Yeah, I'll just say just a minute, and then I'll let everyone else speak. I just, yeah, I mean, I'm not sure what my vision is yet, but I think that's why I think we need to look at all the options. Whether there is some, as we put on here, our self-sustaining model and different pros and cons of selling timberland, hiring a contractor. I mean, there's a lot of different options. Obviously, we have several options. So I think we need to discuss all of them, at length. I mean, not at crazy lengths, but we need to look at them all and see which one probably works best for the future. And I think that's really what a lot of this is what needs to happen, because I think, you know, we have different probably thoughts on different options, but I think until we're all on the same page with what all the options mean, I think it's hard to envision, you know, so we know what you know, what we can and cannot do, and what each option would mean for the town and for our, you know, for Timberland and for the golfers too, and the whole town. So that's where I think we have to go in the initial meeting. So that's my opinion. So let's move it on. Arosh, thank you.
Excellent, thank you. Again, may I please remind those who are just joined by audio or video, if you're not speaking, to please mute it, because I do hear some voices and commands in the background. So moving along, I see Mike there, Urunaga. If you would like to say something, Mike. You're on mute, Mike.
There we go.
Yep.
Thanks, Roche, and good evening, everybody. Thanks for having us tonight. You know, I kind of just was taking the simplistic look at this and looking at the way that the operating budget broke out revenue against direct expenses and stuff, and obviously we're trying to run this as close to, you know, zero as possible. And we had such a great year last year with so many people playing and getting people from out of town and in town and that type of thing, and we were able to clear $69. And from what I can gather, as far as business is concerned, when you have something that's a really hot commodity, and you know, you get into a situation like we have this past year with COVID and having so many people wanting to get outside to play golf and coming from different places, it's almost like striking while the iron is hot type thing. So I would, for me, you know, we're obviously in need of having an upgrade for the clubhouse. You know, is in dire need of one, obviously, but the course itself is tremendous, and a lot of fun to play with. You know, I would be in favor of exploring an option to maybe sell it, but obviously this is, again, like Peter said, this is an asset that we have in town. That is of, you know, a lot of people in town love playing there. A lot of people from out of town come to play there too. So, you know, I'm open to just about any option there is. I'd love to see, you know, us keep it in the town, which would be great. But also, what would it mean if we ended up selling it or giving it to a third party to run, and, you know, not having to worry about trying to make sure that we're clearing expenses, or in the case of fiscal 16, 17, and 19, where we were in the red, which is something obviously we don't want to have to put around the neck of our taxpayers. So for me, I'd love to see the discussion on either side, and then kind of just weigh the pros and cons. You know, it's a great place to have, but is it something that maybe this is a great time for us to look at that option of selling or having somebody else run it for us? That's really where I'm at.
Great. Thank you, Mike. Appreciate that. Charlie, you were on the call. Charlie Penessa. May I ask you to speak, please?
Yes. Rosha, do you want me to speak now? Hello?
Yeah, Charlie, you can go ahead.
Charlie, if you're speaking, we can't hear you. Are you on mute by any chance on the phone? All right, so why don't we move on to Mr. Rasso? Peter, you missed I apologize for the technical difficulties. You can get in, but you're here. I can see you.
Yeah.
So we just started going around the council members and wanting you to articulate what your vision is for Timberland and what you like to see, where we would like to go with this and the process itself. So if you want to speak, please do that.
Well, like Mike, I'd like to hear everything, the pros and cons. This is rather cumbersome and to do it this way. I understand, but I never learned anything while I was speaking. So I would just like to hear the financials and the extenuating circumstances, etc., before we could really make any decisions.
Got it. Thank you. Councilor Lottie?
Sure, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, good. It is a town asset. There's other passive recreation there that goes on. You got the pavilions. For me, growing up down by the fish hatchery, I used to ride my bike there to play golf and down the Sherman Highway. So maybe you might have seen me when I was a little kid throw a fishing line in Hart's Pond there. Wasn't illegal to do, but it's a great asset to the town. I was kind of shocked that for the RFP for the restaurant portion of the business, we got no takers, because that clubhouse does need some investment. That's obvious. I mean, I know there was a plan many, many years ago to expand that restaurant area out to the end of the patio that's under the overhang. That never went anywhere. So I'm on board with getting all the information out there and being honest with everybody, and let's get everything out there, see where we are, where we could go. I certainly don't necessarily want to sell the land. I think Berlin should always control that. If we have to invest in the clubhouse, maybe that will entice somebody to be part of that, and coming in and running something. But we also got to think of people like Mark, our pro. He's a local guy. You bring in a management company, then you may lose somebody like that who the golf community likes. So those are the things on my mind. I still would like to see all the information, the pros and the cons, and go from there.
Great. Thank you, Brandon. Charlie, I'm sorry we couldn't get to you last time. If you want to try one more time. We seem to have a difficulty connecting with Charlie. So why don't we move along? If it's okay with you, we'll just go through the discussion items. We included some financial results in there. The intent
Roche?
here is, sorry.
Roche, I'm trying to. Can I speak very briefly?
Absolutely.
On this, I'm just kind of sitting back and listening to this thing, and being on the commission for a couple of years, I have a with a financial background also, and I'm looking at the financial sheet here, and there's a $25,000 charge that probably doesn't even belong there, so it should be $69, but we'll get past that. But I don't know where the notion came that we need to cover our costs. I don't use the pool. The pool is losing money left and right, but they don't cover their costs. The parks, my kids already went through the school system. Pistol Creek, this is a town amenity. And if we start to say, yeah, let's sell this off for some easy cash, well, that's just foolishness. Because if you do sell it off and somebody does turn that into property, residential housing, you're going to put a strain on this town like you would not believe. Because that's additional schools, that's an additional police. That's just short-sightedness. And as I'm looking to you as town council, I'm kind of shocked at that. The library, I know nobody wants to hear that, but they don't cover their costs either. This is a town amenity. And the question now becomes, does the town, obviously, the town council maybe doesn't look at it in that respect. That this is an asset of the town that I use. I don't use the school system, but yet I still pay. And I understand that because that's part of being a citizen. We're looking at this thing, and I'm looking at this thing as a commission member, a taxpayer, and what's good for the taxpayers and the citizens. And it's just kind of, we did projections on this thing years ago. And, it's just like everybody's blindsided by this stuff. Like, oh my gosh, look, we're here. It's very simple if you look at the P&Ls for the last forever. And you can tell it doesn't take a genius to figure this out, what the problem is going to be. And we'll just call it what it is. It's going to be the labor cost. It's going to kill you. And the fringes. We know it. You look at it. It's just, you get the elephant out of the room. It's on the table. And yes, now we can discuss it. But I look at this thing, you know, if you're going to look at this, look at all town amenities. If we're going to be that short-sighted and look at just the golf course, we need to look at it all. And, you know, it is what it is, you know? And I you know, as the town council, I'm to just pick on Timberland is foolishness in my eyes.
So thank
That's
you,
what I
Tim.
said. Okay.
So thanks. So I don't know.
I just
How we got there?
Roche.
Who is it?
Roche, Mark, this is Mayor.
Yeah, please go
Mark
ahead.
here.
Yeah.
Hey, just real quick, everyone. I mean, let's not all get, you know, I appreciate Jim the comments, but no one's looking to sell it. No one's looking to do anything. It's just all. I think if we want to have an intelligent discussion, and we're doing this with all town assets, we're looking at, you know, the B&A. We're looking at this. We're looking at that. We have to look at everything to be fiscally responsible. We have to do that. It's not been done, in my opinion, forever, if ever, honestly, and it has to be done. And I don't know what the right option is. I mean, certainly I'm not in favor of selling it either, personally, but we have to explore every option intelligently with the facts, all of us together, not on the phone, not on the Zoom. We got to get together in a room and talk about it over the next, you know, weeks and months, and at least look at all the options. And then I'm sure we'll come down to what the best one will be for the town, for our residents, and, you know, we'll figure out financially how to move forward and be responsible with it. But no question, it's an amenity. I don't think anybody wants to get rid of it. That's not why we're having this discussion. But we do need to look at budgets. We have to, you know, government or not. I mean, that's why Connecticut's in the problem that it's in, and you know better than anybody, because they don't look at budgets. They don't look at expenses going forward. They don't care, quite frankly, is in my opinion. Illinois, Connecticut, that's why they're the worst states, you know, least responsible fiscally states in the country. And we don't want our town to run that way. So that's why we're having this discussion. And I'm sure we will come up with a reasonable way to keep it running and you know, be prosperous and be an asset for the town, which is what we all want. But I think we got to put every option on the table. You know, maybe one option is discussed for 5 minutes and we all say, that's not it. Good, let's move on, you know, and let's look at the best option to keep it forward. So just everyone keep an open mind. Certainly express our opinions, because that's important, and it's good to hear that from everyone. But don't worry. You know, we're not looking. There's no agenda here by anyone to do anything other than be responsible, keep our assets, and make sure going forward we can afford them and pay for them in a responsible way. That's what I think. And I think just with all the technical difficulties, I mean, my God, we certainly can't go forward this way. So maybe the next time we find a big enough room, whether it's the auditorium, you know, at the high school with, you know, however many of us there are, which is not that many, right? I don't think there's 25 of us, right? So, but we got to, you know, these discussions, we got to be in person. We got to talk to each other in person and see each other. And I mean, like I say, this was just an opening to start it, because my fear is we don't start it. Remember, we talked about it last year, and here we are this year, and we got to start it somewhere. And certainly with COVID and all that, this is the best place to start it. But yeah, we need to be together, and everyone needs to be in the party. And you know, I'm sure we're all intelligent. We all have our own, you know, strengths and weaknesses. I am sure we will come up with a great way to go forward and have a plan. You know, because I see the town. We have no plan sometimes, and nothing is more frustrating than not having a plan going forward with an asset as great as Timberland, right? So anyway, I just want to calm everybody down and myself down too. Let's not, you know, let's not worry. We're all, you know, I think have the right, you know, the right mindset is to help our town, help our residents, and keep Timberland going for the next 50 years. You know, thank you. Sorry to.
Thank you, Mayor. I see Mr. Paradis, you have your hand up. Do you want to go, please? Jerry.
Thank you. I just wanted to try and help out and give the council some background information. They got some big decisions to make here. I've been working with municipalities for too long, and many of them have municipal golf courses. Basically, about 90% of municipal golf courses lose money. They do not make money regardless of the financial setup. We hear talk about enterprise funds now and then. Most people that I talk to that talk about enterprise fund accounting for the golf course have no idea what it really is. It can be used. It can. We use a different form. We budget everything through the general fund. That's also one of the methods used by other municipalities. And a third option is putting the golf course into a separate special revenue fund where it operates on its own. The thing I want to say is that we should not be making decisions to fit the type of accounting we want to do. You make the decisions on how you want to run the golf course, and the accounting will follow. So don't get hung up on people talking about enterprise fund accounting or any other accounting. Make the decisions that you want to make as far as how should the golf course run financially. Should they make a profit? Should they not make a profit? Is a subsidy expected? I'll tell you, I do believe it is expected because, as I said, in about 90% of the cases of other municipalities, some type of subsidy is needed to keep the golf course in the positive. So I want to just say, don't let the accounting steer where you're going. Kevin Delaney is a good finance director. He can set it up. Your ordinances or whatever else you might do to formulate the direction of this can dictate accounting, but don't get sideswiped right now with the financials either. Last year was a great year for most golf courses, but if you look at a 10-year history for most golf courses, like I said, they need subsidies to go. We're going to have another good year this year as far as the June 30 financial statements are concerned, I'm sure, because we ran all the way through December. But I think the clearest perspective of this is your own theoretical and philosophy as to what you think the golf course should do and why it's there, and don't let the accounting steer where you're going. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. Gail, you had your hand up. Do you want to say anything?
Yes. How's the volume on this? I haven't used this microphone.
Excellent. Loud and clear.
Okay, good. So my question is a process question. As we've said, we're not going to settle this tonight. We're probably not going to settle it in even 2 or 3 meetings. And if the town is looking at this process with other amenities, what is the process? Who's going to do the research? What's going to be the due diligence that we need to be able so that the council can make a decision? What's the plan? How is the town going to go about with this process?
Yeah. Let me take a crack at this. My hope here is to have a discussion on some of the items we talked about, whether it's a self-sustaining model versus a revenue model, the ones that Jerry talked about. Understand the pros and cons of all of them. And then also the other options that we talked about. We do have the option to think about other management solutions, whether you're doing it in-house or third party, talk about that. And that also have different tiers, whether you're outsourcing the entire golf operation, including the restaurant and the management, or is it just the grounds? We need to go through that, look at the numbers, pros and cons. And same, again, the mayor just said this, we should talk about what does it mean to sell the golf course? Can we even do that? But I think once we go through that, organically, I would hope we'll come to some consensus as to the general direction we want to go. That's why we have all the council members here and the golf commission members, so that it's not a subcommittee reporting to another group. We should be able to move it in a direction that we feel with common sense. In general, common sense would prevail at the end of the day. So that's what I'm hoping to do. But as we go through this, some of us will have to go pull some numbers, do some homework, do some research. And we got a lot of experts here, not just the town folks. Jerry, who's acting as the director, can help us out. Mark, the pro, Bayram, he's got a lot of insight. Jerry, Mr. Paradis, same there with Jim Norton, all of you, Gail, all of you have expertise, and we will be probably asking you to do some work as well to pull this together. So if anybody else, Peter or Jerry or Mark, has any other answers?
This is Peter, by the way. Can you hear me now? I'm not muffled
We can hear
anymore,
you.
am I?
Yes. Oh, you're
Okay,
much
perfect.
better now.
Yeah, well, I'm on the phone. Microsoft. Whose idea was that? Yours or Roche?
It's my brilliant idea.
Anyway. Hey, listen, I'm just thankful that this is finally happening, and I'm sure that when all this is said and done, we'll all come up with something that we can all stand behind and agree upon. I know that there aren't a whole lot of golfers in our collective emporium here outside the commission and a few others, but we just want to treat this as fairly as possible, just like anything else. And if this is a townwide thing, then we fully support that, because that's not really what we envisioned from the get-go. So that's a great piece of news. And Mr. Mayor, thank you for that explanation. We appreciate it. And yeah, we look forward to helping out in any way that we can. So Arosha, thank you so much for getting this together, and hopefully it'll work.
Yep, you're welcome. Why don't we start the conversation with the first one about what does it mean to be a self-sustaining unit? Mr. Paradis, you volunteered to help me out with this, with your expertise and all that. But Kevin was kind enough to put something together that includes all direct and indirect expenses. But I would say, if you look at that, what says enterprise basis, it'll go even further. If you're by yourself, you have to borrow money. There'll be debt service and depreciation and other things. So you're probably looking at a deficit of not 100,000, maybe 150, 200,000. I think we have to ask that question: is that something that is doable? It's feasible? Jerry?
Arosha, I think that's a discussion that, really should come way after you've made the other management decisions. I mean, whether you fund your depreciation through user charges or not is that's at the tail end. Most places cannot cover their depreciation. They're lucky to cover their operating expenses. And as I said, most of them need subsidies just to do that. So, I think to get into enterprise fund accounting, I mean, and I'll just give you one example of the complexity. If you're in the enterprise fund situation, you do have depreciation, but if you go out and borrow money, you have debt payments to make that are going to be on your balance sheet. Your debt is not an expense, but obviously you have to pay it. So you have different cash flow needs than what you have for operating purposes, and different cash flow needs if you're operating as a special revenue fund or within the general fund. So rate setting becomes a very difficult thing, and you have to make some big philosophical decisions as to whether you're going to cover your expenses or you're going to cover your cash flow needs. So I really think that's beyond the discussion that you're at right now. I think as far as the financials are concerned, the discussion really should center on is it something that we want to be self-sustaining, or will there be a subsidy involved? And I think that to me, that would be the extent of the financial discussion at this point. We can certainly get into details on later what goes into the rate setting discussion in one model versus the other. But let me say that we've been operating it with going through our general fund since the course opened. It's probably the most simplistic model, and I think it's served us well. People are crying, well, I want to see what the golf course is doing. Well, look at those lines in the general fund revenue budget and the expenditure budget, and you can see what they're doing. There is no accumulation of gains or losses the way we do it. All these other funds, when you set it up through an enterprise fund or a special revenue fund, gains and losses within the fund will be accumulated. That's great when you're having a positive, but as I said, very few of these have positives, and more likely than not, negatives will grow and will have to be funded at some point. We're very lucky that the budgets that we've been able to put together pretty much break even the last couple of years. And to me, if we're dealing with close to break even on a $1.1 million enterprise each year with a $50,000 subsidy needed, well, that's pretty darn close for an amenity.
Great.
One other point I just want to make, Arash, it might just be a quick call to the town attorney, but I believe the town used federal monies to build the golf course in the first place, and that may restrict their ability to sell it.
Yes,
Okay.
follow up on that. I have hold on just a second, Jerry. I have two people in line with questions. I'm going to admit, I love Mark Barham. You had your hand up for a while. Then after that, you have Seb Siena, and then I'll come back to Jerry Salvio.
Hey, everybody. I just want to clear up what the mayor had said earlier. I'm getting the impression that to be fiscally responsible, we need to, at a minimum, break even. So I think that, or when we leave this meeting and we come up with our ideas or plans or whatever, what have you, is that kind of the direction we're heading? That's my question. Should we be coming up with ideas that would allow us to break even at a minimum? I mean, we have a lot of needs here at the golf course that require funding, and I think we're probably way down the line of the totem pole to receive funding from the town. So my question is, should we be coming up with a plan to at a minimum break even, self-sustain? That's my question.
So the mayor can respond to it. I'll go out and say it won't hurt for us to come up with a plan. We'll get to see whether it's doable or not, what that means. But I think we ought to look into a plan like that. Mark, are you on the line, Mr. Mayor?
Yes. Hi. Yeah. I mean, that's certainly one thing to look at, Jerry. I think we get just all options, and again, just because I use fiscally responsible doesn't mean that's what we're looking to do. I don't think any of us, honestly, on this call, from what I've heard, know what we're looking to do, and that's the purpose of this whole thing. So, but I agree with Arosh that that's one plan we need to look at. And I think what we should do to move through this as quick as possible. I don't mean tonight. I mean the process is, like you just mentioned, selling it. Yeah, I don't think really anybody wants to sell it, but we should know what that means, and if we can't, and if we can't, that's great. That's off the table. Boom, move to the next one, right? We could do this fairly rapidly, and then we get down to, the final solution here, whatever it might be, right? Having looked at all the options, maybe each meeting going forward, we take an option. So, yeah, that's one thing. That's something we need to look at as one of the places we go. Not saying that's going to be the ending point. I don't think any of us know that yet, which is why we're having this, which is great to have. So anyway, thanks.
Great, thank you. Seb, you had your hand up.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you clearly.
Okay. I just wanted to add to what Jerry was mentioning in reference to enterprise account. back 3 years ago when we were establishing the golf commission, I met with Meriden, Hunter's Golf Course, who has an enterprise fund. And I also met with Norwich Golf Club down in Norwich, Connecticut. And the folks over in Meriden basically came back and said, you know, we had a big renovation back in the early 90s at Hunter's. And he said to me, don't even go there with an enterprise fund because we haven't recovered yet from that. And whenever they have a major need for equipment or any type of expenses, they got to go back to the city to get funding. And he says it's just a nightmare. He doesn't see any light at the end of the tunnel to recover. And the same thing applied down in Norwich. So I just wanted to add that point in there in reference to an enterprise fund. The other thing too, I went back and I looked at some studies for the average round of golf from municipal golf courses. And the study that was done in 2020 indicate that most golf courses, municipals, have usually an average of 22 to 24,000 rounds of golf. And the revenue is usually between 1.1 and 1.2 million per year. If you look at our statistics, I mean, last year was unbelievable, 48,000 rounds plus, and we brought in roughly about $1.2 million. All right, so you know, can we do any better than that? I'm not sure we can, and you know, you got to keep that in mind going forward. So that's all I wanted to add.
Great. Thank you, Seb. Jerry, Salvio, you had your hand up.
Okay, very quickly, because I don't want to belabor this point. I did a little research myself, and to the other Jerry's point, what I did discover, Jerry, was Timberland was built with 50% of the money came from the Fed, 25% came from the state, and the other 25 came from the town. I have the actual numbers, how much each of us contributed. Unfortunately, I don't have that paperwork in front of me. I left it in the office. But as far as the bullet of sale, no sale, reaching out to the town attorney, I'm not quite sure we can because of where the monies came from. And I think we can put that to rest pretty quickly once we speak with him. The other thing I wanted to bring up, or a couple things real quickly, like I said, I also came across some paperwork, and again, I left it in my office, but it states very clearly that Timberland was built for the, and I quote, built for the enjoyment and use for the residents of Berlin and surrounding towns, unquote. So again, going back to the basic question is, what is it you guys want to do? Do you want it to be an amenity, or do you want it to be, you know, something that's going to be self-sustaining? Kind of gets answered in that statement. It's built for the enjoyment of the residents of Berlin and, you know, surrounding towns. So if we make it, we make it. The other thing I took upon myself is I did reach out to a number of people with regards to outsourcing. And I've got 3 names, all local, who are either working for a golf management company, a local golf management company, or they've had experience working with golf management companies. So I would like to, I'll volunteer to contact these people, have a discussion with them, invite them to our next meeting, so we truly get a clear picture as to the pros and cons of outsourcing. Do we outsource the entire operation? Do we outsource a portion of the operation? And that way we can all sit back and make an intelligent decision. Instead of just guessing, let's get the people who do this day in and day out and talk to them and find out what's best for our course and our needs. Timberland is a tremendous, tremendous asset. That piece of property is like no other, and I've said it many times, and I'm sure I'll say it many more times. So I really want to do what's truly best in the interest of the town and for the property we call Timberland. So again, if I could, if you wouldn't mind, let me reach out to these people and let me get them involved. There is no agenda. They're just, like I said, they work for golf management companies. They may be interested in bidding. They may not, but they can certainly help us and get us pointed in the right direction, I think. These are the people that do it day in and day out. And that's it.
Right. Thank you, Jerry. Brendan, you had your hand up.
Yes, just real quick, it would be great. There was some great information here tonight, the history, and I would like to see that. Maybe someone could put that together just so I can have it. That was neat to know some of that. I've been here most of my life. Some of that I didn't know. But we all can sit here and say, we're talking about golf. It was a great year last year, but we need to also look around at some of the other golf courses. Some of them haven't been doing very great in the last few years. This month, I think next week, you have a vote down in Orange whether that town should buy Racebrook Country Club. Now, that's a really, really old golf course, very nice golf course. They got a great facility, a great building, and it went under. It's closed right now, just closed. So those are the things, we got to keep into consideration, look at also.
Great, thank you. So why don't we, we're getting close to the hour, since we are not going to answer all these questions. Would it make sense, Brendan, what we can do is, we'll certainly do that. We have the history, we'll put something together and share it with the entire group before the next meeting about the history of Timberland, how it came together, and what can be done or cannot be done with the property itself. Would it be okay if I give all of you some homework? It's an easy one. Looking at these categories, to the best of your knowledge, can you send pros and cons of, self-sustaining models, management options, selling timberland, and I'll put that on a sheet or each of those categories as to how it would look like, so that this way all of you get to participate in it. And obviously, like Jerry said, we'll reach out to people who do the business. Some of you will have more experience with this than others, but we might be able to get a comprehensive list of the pros and cons so that we can have a good conversation next time. And I see Peter raising your hand. Peter, go ahead.
Yeah, if you would, Arosh, could you send that to us in a email? That way all of us have exactly the same information that we're responding to, and I think that would be most helpful.
Thanks. Can, absolutely. Hold on a second, I see another hand. Jim Norton. Yeah.
I have a question, and Jerry, this Paradis, let me come to you to all. If we bring people in like that, is that going to prevent them from bidding? Do you need to put like an RFI on the street or something to that effect? You know what I mean, Arosh? Because you'd have to. I know that we're actually looking to get all the information that we have, and talk to the contract, the contract specialist that you have in town to see if that prevent someone from that. If you do end up going down that road, you don't want to shut them out. You know what I mean, Jer?
Get it? Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Jim, I don't know if you were talking to me, Jerry Salvio, or Jerry P.
Both, actually.
It's a good question, Jim. It's a good question. We don't want that. Absolutely. The conversations that I would have initially would just be informal conversations, and just getting some kind of, because I do know the good of the golf course management companies, and I do know the bad, as we all do. Mark Bayram and I'm sure we've heard good and bad. So I think let's just start. I was going to start with some informal conversations, and then, but I think it's very wise that we find out before we go any further if we have to do the RFI, so we don't eliminate them from the mixture that go down that road. Absolutely, Jim. Yep.
Arosh?
Seb, is that?
Yeah, I just want to add to that. Rather than going out to a group like that, we know that the city of Hartford has a management company that's running Goodwin and the other course. Maybe we reach out to the city of Hartford and get their opinion.
Yeah, certainly, we can do that.
All right, so you're really not bringing a management company into play here. You're going right to the source that has the management companies working for them.
Yeah. Anyone has a contact with the city of Hartford, folks who are running the golf course, Keeney and Goodwin? If not, we can do a call.
Aroche,
Yes,
Aroche,
yes.
Jerry Salvio then? Yes, I know them. I know the management company running both, yes. I know what the deal is.
All right, so we'll do that. Would it help? I'll do this anyway. There are some, Hebron, for example, Blackledge and Tallwoods, they are public golf courses, but they are run by, they're privately owned. I happen to know one of them, and I can reach out to them and get some information on the funding, etc. It'd be nice to have those things. One thing all of you know this, but we talk about operations, revenues, and expenses. When I look at Timbal in the last 50 years or so, nothing much has changed with the clubhouse, right? So operationally, you might break even, but we really have to think about capital investment in the facility, whether we do it ourselves or getting a third party to do it. It's the accounting would say revenue, and that's what our charter says. The ordinance says we have to match, the expenses have to be matched with revenues, but you could do that and not invest in your facility, and that's not really good. And we are paying the price for that. It doesn't look like a first-class operation. I'm sorry to say that, but I think we're all here to figure out how we're going to turn that around, right? It needs to be, looks like a first-class operation when you pull in, needs to have a nice clubhouse, needs to have a nice restaurant, and other amenities. And if that's the vision, that's the direction we want to go, this model is not going to work. Just breaking even and not investing in capital, unless the town decides there's a certain portion that the town is going to invest in. So these are the conversations we have to have as we go through it. If that's the direction we want to go, whether we do it or a third party is going to do it, somebody has to pay for it. All right. So
hey, Roche, the mayor here.
Yeah. Yes.
Hey, Roche.
Please go ahead.
I know a couple of us have to leave, and it seems like we're at the end. I thought it was great that we got some great stuff out on the table here. I wonder if next time we could pick just a couple. I mean, because it's all very overwhelming to do it, in a 1 meeting, 2 meetings, as we know. Could we pick the easiest one probably to knock off would be the selling of the golf course? We'll check with Jeff, right, town attorney, and just get some information on that. I mean, that's probably I think for all of us, probably a quick knock off the list, and we can maybe put that on the agenda for next time, and if we can get the background on that. And then maybe, I don't know what the number 2 is. Maybe we stick with a second one that'll take a little bit longer. I don't know if you want, Jerry wants to bring in management, people, whatever you think number 2 is, whatever, just so we, could kind of keep moving down of options, maybe the easiest ones first to look at and say no. We all kind of have a consensus no, and then we get to maybe the more difficult ones as we go, right?
Right. So
that makes sense.
Thanks, Mayor. Let me put this out there, food for thought. Yes, I agree. Let's look at the pros and cons of selling Timberland, what that would look like. And as the second one for discussion, let's talk about what it would look like if we were to say that it needs to be self-sustaining. Let's put that on paper. And you might decide, well, this is not something we want to do, and hence it needs to be an amenity, or it needs to be subsidized by the town. But I think we want to answer that question. Again, I mentioned that before, not just revenues and expenses, not operationally, including capital. For Timberland to function as a self-sustaining unit, what would that look like? and what would the numbers look like? Because if I'll make this up, if the numbers come up and saying there's a gap of $250,000, we all know what the answer is, right?
Yep.
So why don't we do that? And I'll need some help from all of you to do that. And any advice you have will be greatly appreciated. Jim, you have your hand up. Mr. Norton. You're on mute, Jim. Sorry. You're still on mute, Jim. I'm not sure why. Yeah, we just, you're not coming through for some reason. Okay. Okay, we can't hear you.
There's a chat function. You can type it in.
Yeah, if you want to. No, we can't hear you. And 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 hear you. Not sure what happened. Not sure what happened. Sure what happened. Sure what happened. Sure what happened. I think the horror movie is back. Jim, I'm sorry, we can't hear you, so I don't know what to tell you. Unless you want to put something in the chat line.
Jim, can you hear us? Type something in the chat line. Down at the bottom. Little conversation piece.
Good time to learn sign language.
I don't think it's working. All right. Jim will. Can you all please mute your devices again if you have it unmuted, because it's beginning to echo back. All right, we'll have to wrap it up, Jim. We just can't hear you. Whatever you have, I can get to the group via email. So homework for next meeting, we'll get the history of Timberland, how it came together, the documents, what we can or can't do. We'll follow up on that so that everybody has that information. We are also going to look at the pros and cons of selling Timberland, put that document together. And the third one is if we want this to be self-sustaining, to include operating as well as capital, what that would look like. And we'll get some materials in advance of the meeting, and then we'll have a conversation. And feel free to reach out to me with any suggestions, comments you have. Like the mayor said, we are all in this together. We want what's best for Timberland, and we'll do it right.
Hey, Arosh, on the final note.
Yes, sir.
Could you look into, because we, obviously we can't have a discussion where we can't even hear people speaking. Can we look into a venue wherever, whatever, however many, I don't know however many of this, there's only what, there's 7 of us, 8, another, what's on the commission? Another, what is there, 20 of us? Less than 20 really, right? But can we find a venue to do this discussion in person? Because otherwise I think it's kind of futile if people can't speak and we can't hear them, right? We can't get anything done. So I don't know where, if it's got to be the high school auditorium so we could sit 5 seats apart or whatever we need to do for COVID.
I think any of the Par 5 fairways would be good
Yeah.
at the course.
Well, you know what? It'll be a quick discussion. That's a good thing. If we do it in the winter, maybe that's a good thing.
All right.
But
No, I'll look into
yeah,
that.
whatever.
I was kidding.
No, I
Arosh,
know.
can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, I'm sorry. You know, I'm sorry. My question was simple. When we talk sell, is that to a management company or is that to a developer for housing?
No, so if you, others can chime in. Sell, what we had in mind would be, if you sell it, it would be someone to keep it as a golf course and put it back on the tax roll. So they pay property taxes and maybe they pay a lump sum, I don't know, $4 or $5 million up front. Is that a possibility? And then, of course, right of first refusal to us. They want to sell it. And maybe can we have conditions to say you can use it only as a golf course? If you want to sell it, you got to give it back to the town. So these are the options. I don't have the answers, but I think we ought to look into it. And then collectively as a group, we decide whether you want to do it or not. Sounds
Hey,
good?
Roche?
Yes, sir.
Rosha?
Yes, I'm.
That's
Go
Peter.
ahead. Can hear you.
Fazio.
Yes, Peter.
You can hear me, right?
Absolutely.
The town of Southington is going through a situation right now where the owners of Southington Country Club have pulled permits a few years ago and to parcel that golf course out. But the town of Southington has now made them an offer to buy the development rights for Southington Country Club. And the current people who own it will continue to run it. And they can never sell that property for housing. It has to be, it has to remain as a recreational entity.
Yeah.
So that's going. The town is putting that to referendum actually.
Okay. Thanks for sharing that. Okay. Unless anybody has any last minute words of wisdom, it's time for happy hour. Okay.
Roche, when's the next meeting going to be? Do you have any idea? Are we going to meet in a month or 2
Within a
weeks,
month,
3
yes.
weeks?
I'm thinking within a month because we have.
Okay.
Is Thursday generally a good time? Because I know the commission meets on Thursdays, but we'll do an alternate Thursday when the commission is not meeting. We could also take the time of meeting of the commission time since we already have it. Maybe that's not the best, but I'm thinking Thursday either way, within the next, before the next 3 weeks, 3 to 4 weeks tops. We also have.
Arosh, we have a new commission member who is also on Park and Rec, so we'd have to be sensitive to his availability on a Thursday because they also meet on a Thursday. As a matter of fact, they're meeting tonight, so he couldn't attend.
Okay. All right. Thank you. If we are all set for today, we'll sign off.
Very good.
And
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for setting this
Thank
up.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Roche, and everybody. Appreciate it.
Have a good night.
Good night.
See you, Roche.
See ya.
Thank you.